The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's been missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, we are live once again. It's been a little bit of time. These days just seem to fly by from live to live, but yeah, it's been like what 8 or 9 days since I was last live, so it's good to be back. It's good to be seen here on True School Sports. Got a great show for you guys planned today. Gonna kind of recap and give some of my thoughts on the updated thoughts on Tim Tszyu and Bakhram Murtazaliev and the aftermath of it all and the 154 division and what do we go from here and all that stuff. So definitely gonna do that. Before I get into all of that and just speak on Tim Tszyu and Bakhram, I wanted to just do this real quickly. Just for those of you who love True School Sports and want to continue to support the show, the Cash App is right there at $ just a kid from Dania and or PayPal. If you got PayPal, at True School Sports 2012 at gmail.com. If you want to support besides Super Chat, those are the other options. And yeah, man, definitely appreciate all the support from everybody over the years. And yeah, good to be back. And make sure you guys smash that like button, so that this video gets pushed out to as many people as possible. And let's get into it. So let me go ahead and just acknowledge some of the fine folks that have already chimed in and given their thoughts. Shout out to my guy Jesus M. He says saludos to BT. Saludos to you, Jesus M. Good to see you. My main man Lord says, hey BT, great to hang again. I hope you're doing great and enjoying the fights. Yeah, man. Listen, I had a bit of a rough week last week mentally, but hey, it's life. You go through ups, you go through downs. I'm ready for another up because last week was definitely a bit of a down. But yeah, good to be here, man. Good to hang with you as well. As far as the fights, I'm very surprised, because you can go ahead and you can watch all the film you want, but you just don't know how some of these guys are gonna fight when the fights matter the most. And Bakhram really, to me, when we talk about like a star-making performance of the highest order, what he did to Tim Tszyu was a star-making performance of the highest order. He gave him a beatdown. He made this fight one of the most uncompetitive world championship fights in all of 2024. So good to see from Bakhram. A lot of soul searching to do from Tim. Hayes M says, BT, why are they so critical of Tim's team for putting him in tough fights? That is what boxing needs, the best versus the best ASAP. No marinating and avoiding. Listen, seeing how people have talked about Tim Tszyu, it's been a masterclass in, just not like you can't please everybody in boxing and you can't please everybody in life. Like Tim Tszyu is a no-nonsense fighter. He's willing to fight the best anywhere, any place, any time. And he's come up short 2 times against 2 tough opponents, but I'm not going to say nothing bad about him. I'm with you. And shout out to my guy, Alex Fitzmaurice. He says, stepping up in here as well. Yeah, shout out to you, Alex. Good to see you. So let's get into it, man. Let's get into it. I got some talking points I want to run through. Make sure you guys smash that like button, leave a comment, super chat, donate to the channel, all that good stuff. Now, look, let's just address the big elephant in the room, and that's the question of this: will Tim Tszyu, after this loss, after the second consecutive loss, will he ever be the same? Because I feel like he's lost 2 fights in devastating fashion, but 2 different types of fights. Like the Fundora fight was a war of attrition. He had a bad cut. There was a lot of things that physically and psychologically drained him fighting a guy like Fundora. And this fight, Bakhram, was just an absolute demolition job. I mean, you're getting hit with thudding power, left, right, and center. To make matters even worse, you're having the PTSD of dealing with the cut. You're having this big, strong Chechnyan monster just wail on you. And to make matters worse, your father, Kostya Tszyu, the boxing legend, he had never come to watch you fight your entire career. This is the first time he's watched you fight in person, and you just get the breaks being off you. So I know psychologically that has to do something for Tim. And this is what we're gonna see, like Tim Tszyu. Like we're gonna see really like how great is he, because it's very easy to know. It's very easy to praise a man in his victories, but you really get to know a man in his defeat or defeats in this case. So Tim Tszyu has a lot of answers that need to be, a lot of questions that need to be asked and answered, and he's got to develop his style. He's got to maybe tighten up his defense. He's just too hittable, and it's been a common theme in his career. Normally his defense is a little tighter, but Bakhram seemed to have the answers. Bakhram seemed to be a lot better than a lot of us realize. So do I think it'll be the same? I think there's going to have to be a rebuilding period. I'm not ready to write off Tim Tszyu just yet. I still think there's a really good fighter in there, and two bad fights in a row don't change that. A year ago at this time when he was undefeated, people were talking about him being the best 154 pounder in the world, and he was supposed to fight Keith Thurman, which fell out, and I think that, looking back at hindsight, that would have been the best thing for him. But hindsight's always 2020, and the fights he actually took and got in the ring with, he lost. So I'm not going to say that he'll ever be the same. And it's going to be a long road back, but if handled correctly and if he has the right mental fortitude, he don't got to be the same. He could actually come back better. I'm being optimistic here. I like Tim Tszyu. I for being around him, I think there's a very tough, resilient individual in there, and I do think he come back strong. But right now, it's not looking so good. He got beat up pretty bad. He went through some things in the ring against Bakhram that really few fighters ever come back from stronger. But I think Tim Tszyu has a lot of resolve, a lot of mental fortitude. So I'm gonna be optimistic and say it'll be a long process, and this team needs to really carefully guide him. In fact, I'll even say this, and this may be a bit of an unpopular opinion or assessment, but I would really consider Tim Tszyu going up to 160. 160 is a weak weight class right now. It's a division where he can go become world champion. I like that. I like that division for him. 54 is a very hot division. If you stay in this weight class, you got to fight guys like Madrimov and Boachuk and Virgil, and which I know Tim Tszyu would do, as he's shown us in the past. But from a management standpoint, right now, with how he is, it may just be the best to take him to 160. And go maybe go up there, go fight Michael Zarafa in a fight in Australia. Start building up back in Australia, and maybe revisit some of these guys later on. But yeah, I don't think whether he comes back stronger or weaker, he'll never be the same. If he continues on this path of losing, it's gonna get worse. But if he comes back, I think he'll be even better. So it's really just one of those things where we gotta wait and see. I'm actually gonna lean towards the latter. I think Tim Tszyu can come back and can still be a damn good fighter. I'm not ready to write him off just yet. So that's how I feel. Shout out to everybody here. Let me go ahead and address the comments. We got my man Landslide. He says Tim's team let him down. I don't agree with that. I mean, maybe his like I don't know. I don't want to say that, because nobody was saying that when the Murtazaliev fight got signed. Nobody was saying Tim's team let him down. It was only after the fact, after he got pieced up, that they had things to say. My thing is this: if he would have won, nobody would be saying that his team let him down. So it's just one of those things. I think that Tim Tszyu and his team, they have a very old school approach to boxing. They try to fight the best people when they can. And he lost, and it is what it is. Now that he's lost 2 big fights in a row, you pull him back, you take him to Australia, and you go ahead and you see if he can rebuild. But a lot of Monday morning quarterbacks saying that his team let him down. I don't think that's fair. But life ain't fair and boxing ain't fair. Philippines 413 says, "Say it, B. Tim Tszyu exposed." I'm not gonna say that. Landslide says, "You can tell that he had PTSD from the Fundura fight cut. He paused and kept touching his head. Fighting with his head down versus a taller fighter is not a guy." No, it's not. It's not, and he's got to go ahead and, like I said, he's got to make some adjustments. I don't think he had a problem from a managerial standpoint, because on paper, and I can only speak on paper, Bakhram was a very winnable fight for Tim. Bakhram really showed that he was better than people saw on tape. He showed improvements in his career, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for being better than what people thought he was. But I think Tim needs to go look into the training aspect. Go look at getting him with a coach that could maybe add some things to his game and tighten up his defense. And you just made a video with Tim's manager trying to find out a big fight. The big fights are gone, and Tim has taken too many punches. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think they're all the way gone yet. He's just going to have to go through a rebuilding process. Go to Australia, go to 60, go try to do a Michael Zarafa fight. gradually step up in competition, and then revisit the big fights later on. It's not over. I mean, Tim didn't have a game plan specifically for the fighter from Czechia. Tim tried to fight like he was a bully, and that was a big mistake. Yeah, no, Bakhram is very strong, and Bakhram, that's not the way to fight him. It really isn't. This guy is made out of bricks. He's just like these other Chechens. You can't go in there trying to fight fire with fire. He did that, and he found out the hard way that was very, very dumb. You know, as far as Tim, like, and just to kind of just like everything you guys are talking about, it kind of ties into some of my talking points. Like, it's hard for me to really talk shit about Tim Tszyu. I mean, yeah, he's a flawed fighter. I was never calling him in a pound. I didn't look at him as a pound for pound kind of a guy. But it's hard for me to really talk shit or down Tim Tszyu. Why? Because Tim was fighting tough fight after tough fight. On the way up, he was fighting guys like Kashi Inoue. He's fought guys like Tony Harrison, fought guys like, and albeit Tony Harrison was old, but Tony Harrison, Brian Mendoza, signed fights with Keith Thurman, fought Fundura, fought Bakhram. Like, he's a guy that's really shown himself to be a no-nonsense fighter. And there's so many fighters in boxing. Look at Gervonta Davis, right? A guy that I like Tank, but Tank is the opposite of Tim Tszyu. He's only fighting guys that he knows he can beat. Tim Tszyu's taking tough fight after tough fight, and he's not living in his comfort zone as a fighter. So that's why he's gonna have my respect. I'll point out his flaws. I'll point out the obvious. His defense ain't the best. He can't rely on his physical strength against every single fighter, because that's not going to work against every single fighter. So there's gaping flaws in his game, but he's going to always have my respect because, again, he continuously challenges himself. He was willing to fight whomever, whenever, wherever. Signed fights with Virgil, signed fights with Keith Thurman, fought Fundura, fought Bakhram, fought Mendoza, fought anybody that was willing, ready, and able to fight at 54. So for that, he's always gonna have my respect as a boxing fan and as a guy in the media. And as far as people are saying, like, it's bad matchmaking, I've heard a lot of armchair quarterbacks say it was bad matchmaking. How could anybody say it was bad matchmaking before? Because nobody's saying it. Nobody said it before the fact. They're saying it after the fact. The reality is, most boxing fans wouldn't know if this was good or bad matchmaking, because Bakhram Murtazaliev really didn't fight on TV for like 4 or 5 years. This guy was fighting on dark shows, on the untelevised portion of preliminaries, and he wasn't a known commodity. Unless you really sat there and watched his highlights and really sunk your teeth into him, you weren't gonna know a whole lot about Bakhram Murtazaliev, because there wasn't a whole lot of Bakhram Murtazaliev in your face. So they fought the guy that they felt was the best for Tim's style. They were gravely mistaken. Tim, I don't think, took him all the way serious like he should have. And even if he did, he fought him the wrong way. So it's not about Tim and what he didn't do. It's about Bakhram. It's about Bakhram being a lot better than people thought he was. I mean, Bakhram, he showed in this fight he can box, he can punch, he can stalk you, he can, just do so many things that he can counterpunch a little bit. And honestly, I think it was Lord Zed. Lord Zed had asked me, he said, BT, what do you think about Bakhram? How good do you think he is? I'll tell you guys like this right now. I know it's crazy how quickly things can change in boxing, but for my money right now, Bakhram is the best 154-pounder in the world. He absolutely made Tim Tszyu look like an F-class fighter, like a straight can. And I don't think anybody is beating Tim Tszyu like that. So it was a statement victory. This is also the same Bakhram that had his career stalled. I mean, not stalled, but he took step-aside money because Jamel Charlo wanted to go fight for Undisputed. So he took a lot of step-aside money. Guys made like $2 million in step-aside money. And, all the while he was collecting that money, he was improving and he was taking these fights. And, he did improve a lot over these years. And when the big fight came, when it came time to be in the big dance, he had the answers. He had the remedy. And he was a guy that wasn't just ready to win the title, but win it in sensational fashion. So I think people just got to admit that Bakhram was a lot better than we thought he was. Straight up. Shout out to my guy from Philippians 413 with the $5 super chat. He says, seriously, you think he can come back and just name a fighter that has Manny Pacquiao? Manny Pacquiao got knocked the fuck out plenty of times way early in his career than Tim do. Manny Pacquiao, Roberto Duran has come back from some big time losses. Only the best of the best. Romo Gonzalez. Romo Gonzalez got nailed to the canvas against Rumberside, came back, became champion, became one of the best 115 pounders in the world in a weight class where he was really undersized. So there's been fighters that have gotten their ass waxed in big fights and come back to do some great things in boxing. And I'm not ready to just fully write off Tim. And the reason why I'm not ready to fully write off Tim is because I've been around Tim, and I know the kind of mental I know the kind of mental resolve he has as a person and as a fighter. And I just think that when you have his type of mental makeup, you can never fully write a guy off like that. If you feel like he doesn't have the skills to beat the guys like Virgil and Boachuk and Crawford and whoever, that's fine. That's more than acceptable because he does have some flaws. But to sit here and, when a guy like as determined as Tim Tszyu exists and write that guy off, that's not smart. That's just not very smart. So, yeah. Philippians 413 comes in with a $5 super chat. He says, "What's up with Crawford? I'm losing respect because he's doing a lot of talking but won't fight." You know what? Funny enough, and now all the Crawford Murtazaliev questions are coming in. Funny enough, right? That actually segues into one of my talking points. Because honestly, you guys know if you follow me for any amount of years that Terrence Crawford is one of my favorite fighters. Like, he's one of my favorite fighters in the history of boxing. Recently, it hasn't seemed like that because ever since he beat Errol Spence, and I'll just call a spade, I think Terrence Crawford has become a big diva since he beat Errol Spence. And yes, I said diva. Ever since he beat Errol Spence, he's become a diva. He don't want to fight nobody in his division. He didn't want he didn't want to fight Ennis. Terrence Crawford, he didn't want to fight Jerron Ennis. All right. He didn't want to fight, none of the guys at 54 that people actually cared about seeing him fight. Nobody gave, let's be real. Nobody gave a flying fuck about him fighting Israel Madrimov. Nobody cared about Israel Madrimov even when he beat Magomed Kurbanov for the title. So Terrence Crawford, there's a lot of guys that he has shown a lot of ambition to fight because he's been so zeroed in on Canelo. So I'll say it like this. You didn't want to fight Jerron. You didn't want to fight a lot of guys. You didn't want to fight other guys 54. This is the fight I now want to see. This is it. I don't care about Canelo. I don't care about Boots. I don't even care about Boots. Boots is done. The Boots fight ain't even as fun and as sexy as it used to be. This is the fight I want to see because Terrence Crawford had all these things to say about what Tim Tszyu wasn't doing and what he was doing, and he was ranting about boxing fans. So if that's truly the case, if you have all these answers about how to beat Bakhram Murtazaliev, then it's time to close your mouth, be quiet, wrap up, put your gloves on, and get in the ring and prove it. I know a lot of people will say, like, because I've gotten these comments in my video, they say, "Oh, well, BT True School." Terrence Crawford, he's already cemented his legacy. He doesn't need to prove anything to you or anybody. And you're right, he has cemented his legacy. But guess what? He cemented his legacy at 147. He cemented his legacy at 140. He cemented his legacy at 135. He ain't cemented a motherfucking thing at 154. All he did was beat Israel Madrimov, who's a good fighter, but again, a guy with not a lot of professional fights who people weren't really clamoring to see him fight. This is a fight that people are clamoring to see Terrence Crawford in because of how, not just the fact that Bakhram beat Tim Tszyu, it was the fashion in which he beat him. It was sensational. It was one of those fights that if you saw it, if you were watching boxing around this time, you will never forget it. So I want to see this fight. I want to see Terrence Crawford. When he gets punched on by a Chechnyan, a full-fledged, strong Chechnyan 154-pounder, how does he react to it? Does he have the ability to continue making the adjustments, to continue showing his versatile skill set as at this high weight class? I think this is a fight that people want to see, and I think people would respect Terrence Crawford a lot if he took this fight because, again, this is a fight where Terrence Crawford is not going to get this is a fight where Terrence Crawford is not going to get a lot of money. Bakhram, he's become a name to boxing fans, but he's still not a big name, beyond the realms of the hardcore boxing fans. So I would like, to me, this would be like when Terrence Crawford fought Victor Postal all those years ago, back in the day. I'm old enough to remember, and I've been covering boxing on YouTube long enough to remember when Terrence was when Victor Postal knocked out Lucas Batiste Lucas Batiste was a very, very feared guy at that time. A guy that was, still very dangerous in the weight class, and Postal iced him as the underdog. And then there were some people here on YouTube and in the boxing community that thought that Terrence Crawford was going to do Victor Postal what Danny Garcia did and avoid fighting him and try to pay him step aside money. And that's not what he did. He fought Victor Postal. He outclassed Victor Postal. And the Victor Postal fight for Terrence Crawford is one of the fights that, in my humble opinion, it's made the legacy of Terrence Crawford. Now, truth be told, just being honest, I'm not saying he hasn't fought good guys, because he has fought good guys, but I don't think he's had a fight quite like that fight, the Victor Postal fight, against a dangerous guy, high risk, low reward guy, that can beat him. He hasn't had a fight like that in a long time. So I would love that fight for that reason. We'll get our answers to how Terrence Crawford can take a punch at 54. We'll see how it goes. I just think, to me, whatchamacallit, Bakhram has become the premier opponent for Terrence Crawford. We don't need to see him like against Tim Tszyu anymore, because he lost to Tim Tszyu, or Tim Tszyu lost. We don't care about him fighting Boachuk, because Boachuk has a score to settle with Virgil. If I call for the Virgil fight, a lot of the Crawford fans are going to say, well, Virgil ducked Terrence Crawford, so I can't even say Virgil. So everyone at 54, Boots is at 47, so he's not, everyone at 54. There's no more fight that's more interesting than Bakhram versus Crawford. And if you tell me there is a more interesting fight at 54 than Bakhram versus Crawford, I think you're crazy. Do you really want to see Terrence Crawford fight Sebastian Fundora? Like, no slight on Sebastian Fundora. Good fighter, all action fighter, good for boxing, always in a good fight. But Sebastian Fundora, he doesn't, he still he got knocked out by Brian Mendoza. The jury's still on how good he is, right? So, unified champion, respect to him. But to me right now, apart from Crawford himself, this is the best 54-pounder in the world. And I think boxing fans would give Terrence Crawford a lot of respect if he fought Bakhram. My opinion. Because even if his name isn't the biggest, anybody who just looks at the Tim Tszyu fight is going to say, damn, this guy can fight his ass off. There's just no way. You got to be a real hater to watch Bakhram versus Tim Tszyu and say that, he's not worthy of a Crawford fight at 54. If he's not worthy of a Crawford fight at 54, then who the hell is worthy of a Crawford fight at 54? Boxy Learner says Terrence Crawford should retire. He's 37. Possibly. As far as Crawford and Murtazaliev, I think it's an amazing fight. I think it's a great fight. I think it's a dangerous fight. I think it's a fight that if Crawford were to win it at this stage of his career, I would put it up there as one of his top 5 wins, just because in boxing, right, timing is everything. So sometimes it's not even about who you fight. It's about when you fight them. Like, do you fight them when they're coming out the worst loss of their career, or do you fight them when they're in their prime, when they're coming out the most devastating performance of their career? And if Terrence were to fight Bakhram, next, you'd be fighting Bakhram coming out the most devastating performance of his career, smack dab right in the middle of his prime. You're 37. You're not in your prime anymore. That win would be very impressive to me, straight up. My man Kevin Effect says, BT, what's up? Happy to see the channel live. Yeah, it's good to be live, man. It's been a while. These days, like, when it comes to going live, if you don't go ahead and you don't go live like every day, or at least a day or two, the days they fly right by. So yeah, man. Shout out to my guy from New Mexico, Shinobi. Good to see you, Shinobi. Hope all is well. Get ready for Angelo Leo, early 2025. Now, I hope to see it. I hope to see you at the fights again. He says, more credit considering there would also be no IBF rehydration class. Exactly. So, and see, this is what I'm talking about. A lot of people in boxing want to shit on the IBF, but when you fight for the IBF, you're fighting for the pride, you're fighting for the glory, you're fighting for the biggest treasure in boxing. Because when you fight an IBF champion, he's going to be properly hydrated. He's not going to have a crazy advantage with rehydration. You're not going to have a crazy advantage with rehydration. If you're mandatory, you get your shot. Like this is the most legitimate belt in boxing. And funny enough, right? I said this in my video earlier, and I'll say it here. If the IBF didn't conduct themselves the way they do, Bakhram would never get a chance to become champion, because he was mandatory challenger to Charlo years ago. Charlo was in the process of pursuing undisputed. So Charlo dropped the belt, and what did Bakhram do? Bakhram made some good money not fighting. Sometimes when you're a guy like Bakhram, you could make more money not fighting Jermell Charlo than you could fighting him. He made like $2 million in step aside money. And all the while he was doing that, he had a chance to develop, take the right fights, improve, get better. And eventually, when the time came for a Tim Tszyu fight, he was more than prepared, and it showed. It showed in spades on fight night. So yeah, the IBF, like, again, I'm gonna keep driving this point home, guys. Stop talking shit about the IBF. Like, it's they're not perfect, because they have things that I can call out, like the Earl Spence, Abdul Kakharav situation back in the day, but but for the most part, they're pretty consistent. So yeah. Landslide says we need only one champion per weight class like UFC, my G. I don't know if that'll work in boxing, to be honest with you. Like, UFC can do that because there's nothing interfering. Like, everything's in unison. The TV networks, the belt, the UFC, the promotion, the TV networks are all in the same. In boxing, even if you had one belt, the reality is you still got boxing on 3-4 different networks, so there's always going to be conflicts. There may be guys that are champions that the networks don't want to fight on their platforms. Like, for example, William Skoll. He's a champion, and congrats to him. But William Skoll is not very entertaining. William Skoll is really and truthfully, like, I don't want to say he's not that good because he's a champion, but he's not going to be someone that's aesthetically pleasing to boxing fans. So networks may shun the idea of putting William Skoll on their platform, right? So you have your heart's in the right place, but it's not going to work the way it does for UFC because UFC has the television and the rankings and the belt all in unison. Until boxing can get on the same channel, I'm talking about the same network, same sanctioning or same one sanctioning body, it's not going to work. If one thing is off, it'll never ever work the way you want it to, and that's just the truth. Boxing Leonard says there's too many fighters and promotions for only belts. Yeah, I think so. I think there is a lot of muddying up of the waters in boxing. I think it's made it a little bit easier for fighters to become champion. That's why every now and then you can get these circumstances where you get a guy like William Skoll, who by circumstance, he had a good team behind him. They won the purse bid. They put the fight in his promotion's hometown. He's in a close fight. He gets a decision, right? So, it does happen. But listen, guys, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but like the 4-belt structure in boxing, I don't think it's going anywhere. And if you guys think that Turki Al Sheikh is gonna be here for the long term to change it, that's not gonna happen either. Because again, as I've explained many times before, and I will explain again, the boxing in Saudi agenda, boxing in Saudi is just a very minuscule part of their whole agenda, which extends far beyond sports or boxing or anything like that. But yeah, in a perfect world, I would love to have one belt, one promotion. But boxing's not boxing. First of all, boxing does have a union, right? So boxing does have a union. Boxing doesn't have one TV network that they're affiliated with. You got PBC on Amazon. You got DAZN and Golden Boy on or Golden Boy and Matchroom on DAZN. You got Top Rank on ESPN. So there's a revolving door, and if there's that many things in the revolving door, you're not gonna have one belt, one champion, one promotion. That's just the cold hard reality. But yeah, in conclusion, Terrence Crawford needs to stop running his mouth and needs to fight Bakhram. That's it. Because him and his team, they've been very vocal about what they will, what they won't do. They won't fight Boots. They won't entertain Virgil because he ducked them in the past. They won't do this. They won't do that. So if he can't secure the biggest fight in boxing for himself, which is the Canelo Alvarez fight, then the only fight he needs to be worried about taking is the Bakhram unification fight, because Madrimov is a cool little fight. It was all right. Madrimov has a little awkward Uzbek style, but he didn't really have anything for Crawford. Like, let's just be honest. Like, he had the awkwardness. He could punch a little bit, but it just wasn't enough. He wasn't busy enough. He wasn't going to ever be busy enough to get a decision against Crawford on a Riyadh season card. And it's kind of sad, too, because it was a close fight, and I actually do think the scorecards were accurate. But, like, if you actually use the whole, like, you have to take the belt from the champion narrative, then it's very debatable that Terrence Crawford won that fight at all. Like, let's just be honest. So, It is what it is. Um, Maybe Saudi can help Bakhram get fights because he won't get the fights he needs. Or yeah, that's true. See, this is where I can be an adult and I can compartmentalize and I can put my feelings aside and I can admit because in life, like not just with Saudi and Turkey and them in boxing, but just for people in general, nothing is all bad, nothing is all good. The same way that nobody is all bad and nobody's all good. You know, there are fighters in boxing where I feel like the Saudis have immense value for. Look at what the Saudis have done for people like Martin Bakoli and Ajit Cabello. These guys were middling heavyweight contenders, good fighters, worthy enough and competent enough to get big fights, but couldn't get the big fights because the promoters were never going to fight those guys unless they're mandatories. They're very high risk, low reward guys, you know. But because of Riyadh season, because of Turkey and the investment that they had in boxing, those guys have actually been afforded the opportunity to have a real career. Cabello got to fight Makhmudov and Frank Sanchez and performed great in both fights. Martin Bakoli beat the brakes off Jared Anderson and absolutely positively exposed Jared Anderson. So, you know, there is value for certain fighters with Riyadh season. And I think Bakhram is 1,000% going to be one of those guys because I don't see after what he did to Tim Tszyu. I'll tell you right now, man. Robert Garcia, who's part of Virgil Ortiz's team, he's not gonna go pick. He's not gonna go ahead and go pick no damn Bakhram. That would be a suicide mission. They'll take safer fights. They'll wait for the coast to clear. They're not gonna fight Bakhram. A lot of guys are not gonna fight Bakhram. And I'll tell you guys like this: anybody who fights Bakhram after that demolition job he just put on Tim Tszyu deserves full credit because you know that's the kind of performance that would strike fear in a lot of people, you know, or not fear. I don't know if fear is the right word, but it would have a lot of management teams, fighters second guessing themselves if they're really prepared to go through that kind of a battle, you know, because when you fight Bakhram, you're gonna lose some pieces of yourself. He's one of them guys. If you fight him, you're gonna lose a piece of yourself in that ring. And truthfully speaking, like for fighters, it doesn't matter if you're fighting the mandatory challenger, the voluntary defense, the unification fight, the biggest fight of your life. Every training camp, every fight does take a little bit piece of a fighter, but there are certain fights that take more of you away, and I feel like he's one of them guys where it's going to take more away from a fighter. So, yeah, there's value for I think Riyadh's season in Turkey would be great for Bakhram. It seemed like Crawford and Majmov didn't want to take many chances in that fight. No, it was a high level chess match, and you know. I was there. I was dead tired by the time the main event came on. I wanted to go home, but it wasn't no great fight to be honest. And the last thing I want to say about Bakhram, right? Because this live is about him and what he did to Tim Tszyu. There's been a lot of talk about what could be a big fight for him, and I saw my good buddy Sean Tell, you know, the other half of the best pair in boxing media. He said that he would like to see Jaron Ennis move up to 154 to challenge Bakhram, which I'm pretty sure he could do pretty fluidly and easily because Jaron Ennis is the IBF welterweight champion. So he's going to have standing within the IBF. I'm pretty sure he might even be able to get an immediate title shot if he wanted to go to 54 and fight Bakhram. So I think that'd be the best. Like, I think that'd be a great move for Jaron Ennis. You go to a weight class where you can rehydrate. You'll have more of your strength with you. And it's really going to be, it comes down to this. Is Jaron Ennis as good as I think he is? And is Jaron Ennis as good as a lot of boxing fans think he is? Because I'll tell you like this. If Jaron Ennis is as good as we think he is, he will find a way to beat Bakhram and beat him in comfortable fashion. That's the level, and that's a standard that he's been propped up to these years. You know, he's a switch-hitting, athletic fighter with good size for the weight class, can punch hard in both hands. Good defensive fighter when he wants to be. You know, sometimes, you know, if he's fighting a guy who has no power, he'll sit in the pocket, he'll roll shots, he'll take shots. But generally speaking, he's mostly a good defensive fighter most of the time. I think Bakhram and Jaron Ennis would be a great fight for boxing. And I think, you know, if Ennis could go up there and pick that belt off from Bakhram, coming off the heels of his demolition job over Tim Tszyu, then that's going to do a lot for Jaron Ennis. And then I actually think it would put him in a power position to maybe fight Terrence Crawford, because now people would really be calling for a Terrence Crawford fight because look, he gets beat up on the Russian dude that beat the hell out of Tim Tszyu, so that his stock will go up. So if I'm Ennis, you know, I do this Karen fight. I beat the brakes off Karen. I let everybody know that that first fight was just an off night. And then I dropped the IBF belt, and I petitioned with the IBF to try to get an immediate title shot at Bakhram Murtazaliev. I implore my promoter, Eddie Hearn, to pay this man whatever it's going to take to get him in the ring. And then you go in the ring and you showcase your skills to the best of your abilities, and you beat Bakhram, and boom, all of a sudden in one fight, you go from being a guy who's a champion in a weight class that's not good at all right now at welterweight to now being a guy who's champion in one of, if not the hottest weight class in boxing. And now you're in a powerful position to get fights against Virgil Ortiz, Boachuk, Terrence Crawford, and you could really make some things happen. So I think that'd be a hell of a move for Jaranis. Now, do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. They're probably going to stay at 47 and fight, Suleiman Sissoko and maybe Brian Norman. And if we're lucky, maybe a Jin Sasaki. That'd be great. But if I just put my manager's hat on, if I was the manager of Boots, I would be trying to get on the phone with the IBF, see what I could do to petition or request an immediate title shot and go right after Bakhram. Because Boots has 30 plus fights. He's seen all kinds of styles. He's a very talented fighter. If you believe in your talent, it's that stage in the ball game in his career now where you let the dogs loose and you let the dog loose and you see what you got. That's what I think. Ennis versus, oh yeah, for sure. One thing, it'll be an exciting fight because like you said, Ennis he can overcommit at times. I think in a fight like that, though, against a guy that strong, he's going to be defensively a lot sharper. You won't see the Ennis that was sitting in the pocket against Avanesyan and rolling shots. I think that'd be an amazing fight. One thing I'm surprised is people have not mentioned yet is that Bakhram's ability to take Tim's clean flush shots, and Tim can punch. Yeah, well, I think too. Just looking at two of them, I think he was physically a bit bigger than Tim. So I think that played a role, and he also trained very hard for the fight. So a lot of it goes on to preparation. You guys got to understand these fights. What you see on fight night, it's a culmination of days, weeks, and months of hard, grueling camps. Guys they're doing sparring, they're running mountains, they're chopping wood, they're doing their sit-ups, they're doing everything possible to get an advantage. They're swimming. I mean, it's a never-ending list. I've seen training camps for fighters before, and I'm starting to get a real idea of what really goes into a fight. And whatever you see on fight night, it's just months and months of preparation. So Bakhram performed in such an amazing fashion. You got to give credit to how he prepared. He clearly prepared in amazing fashion. So, yeah. 154 is late. It looks like Mano Ramos versus Jamel Charlo is in January. Jamel Charlo's in a box? Man, I ain't seen nor heard about Jamel Charlo since and I'm gonna say it on video the way I said it on Twitter. I ain't seen or heard from Jamel Charlo since he spread his ass cheeks and laid down for Canelo. And good for him. It's good to have him back in boxing. I like Jamel Charlo. I got very pissed off seeing how he didn't come to fight against Canelo because I was under the impression that Charlo was going to really come out and at least try to win against Canelo. And he, for the minute I saw the press conferences, I'm like, nah, man, he's not Mr. Keep Running Your Mouth. He's not the guy that, beat Jason Rosario and Eric Lubin and Tony Harrison in the rematch. He showed up for the check. So I'm hoping now that he's back, maybe that he's not fighting Canelo, this guy that he idolizes supposedly. Now he'll actually be himself, and he'll fight like the guy at 154 that made him undisputed. But yeah, as far as him and Jesus Ramos, Charlo Ramos, it's a good fight. I don't look at Jesus Ramos as a guy who's lost any fights. I thought he beat Lubin. I thought they robbed him. I think that's a fight Ramos can win because with Jamel being off for such a long time and coming off of a fight where he didn't even try to win but lost and got beat up, you got to give Jesus Ramos a big shot to win that fight. No doubt about it. Activity matters. So, guys, look, I ran through pretty much all I wanted to run through when it came to Bakhram and Tim. We're like 40 minutes in, so we'll fill it out. We'll see how many questions we get. But drop some questions down below. I'll be here to answer any and all questions. I hope everybody's week's been good. I hope everybody's day's been good. Ennis versus Lubin is more realistic than Bakhram. I guess so, but do you guys really want to see Eric Lubin versus Ennis? I mean, it's a good fight. Eric Lubin to me has always been it's been a little overrated. You know, he's a good fighter, comes up short in the big fights, so be a chance for him to really get a big win and get a signature win in his career. You know, and they're both aggressive, southpaw, power punching fighters, seek and destroy type guys. So could be a good one. Could be a good fight. Raw Dog said, "I don't want to see Ennis versus Karen too." And then and you're speaking. You're most of the boxing is like you. Most people don't want to see Boots versus Karen too. Now me, I'm gassed for Boots versus Karen too because, and I gotta keep saying this because it's just what I felt. When Boots fought Karen, I thought he looked super regular when he fought. I mean, super, super regular. Couldn't cut off the ring, was getting counterpunched. A lot of people were saying that Karen was running and all that stuff, and that Boots won 12 rounds. Boots did not win 12 rounds. Anybody who's saying Boots won 12 rounds against Karen, that's some dick riding stuff. He didn't win no 12 rounds. He probably won like 9 rounds, maybe 10 if you want to get real generous. But I'll say he won 9. But even in a lot of the rounds he was winning, he just looked really just regular. Looked like a guy that was having a hard time cutting off the ring. What do you think about this year in boxing in 2024? Did it live up to expectations or did it fall short? No, I think 2024 has been a great year for boxing. You've had some great heavyweight fights. You've had some middling contenders like Martin Bakoli in Cabello get to make a name for themselves. You had the reemergence of Joseph Parker. You've had you've had guys like Jaime Munguia in good fights this year. You had Canelo beating up on undefeated fighters that are young, but he's better than. You've had the reemergence of Angelo Leo with the knockout of the year. You've had Liam Paro. I mean, there's so many great things in boxing. You better become undisputed. I think 2024 has been a very, very fun year for boxing. And I think a lot of positives happen. We've had 2 undisputed champions crowned in 2 of boxing's glamour divisions, which is light heavyweight and heavyweight. We've had the only real complaint I can have about boxing in 2024 is probably the same complaint I had about boxing in 2023, which is that the middleweight division is an absolute shambles. It's not a very good weight class, and it needs some air injected into it. But other than that, I've had a lot of fun in 2024. Speaking for me personally on this side, as someone who covers the sport and being around it, this year has been the most fun year I've had in boxing. It's also been the most challenging year I've had in boxing for sure. Just like with growing the channel, traveling, moving to Vegas, like it's just been a lot of stuff going on this year. But God's been good, and yeah, I've enjoyed it. So yeah, hope that answered your question. What do I think of Chris Colbert? Is he ruined? I thought Chris Colbert was ruined a little bit of time ago. I'll tell y'all like this. I saw Chris Colbert train and spar before the Hector Garcia fight, and I didn't like what I saw in the sparring. Not because he was getting beat up, but just because the sparring wasn't like it didn't have the kind of intensity that I think was befitting of a guy trying to fight, at the championship world class level. And it showed when he fought Hector. And I think he's taking a lot of punishment. And I think, being a fighter that like him, who's relied on his reflexes and his hand speed, I think that as we've seen in many times in boxing, it is possible to be shot young. He shot at 28 years old. There's no two ways about it. He shot. He's 28 years old. He shot. He's not going to get no better than what he is. I think where he also went wrong in his career was leaving 130. I think Chris Colbert at 130 was a good fighter, a guy that really could have did something. 135, he never had the pop. When he moved up to fight Rob Valenzuela that first time, and he got what many people believe to be a gift decision in a fight where, could have went either way. That after that fight, that's when he should have been moving his ass right back down to 130. He should have got a nutritionist. He should do whatever he could have possibly done to go down to 130. Because at 35, his ass was always gonna be grass because he can't punch like that. Um, and on top of that, those guys are physically bigger and stronger. And his defense, I mean, his defense ain't he's not a terrible defensive fighter, but he's not a great defensive fighter either. He's a very average defensive fighter. So he just didn't have the attributes I felt going up to 35 to be successful, and it showed in a major way. So I think he is ruined, and I hate to say that because I like Chris Colbert. People don't even understand. Like, one of my earliest memories covering boxing was of Chris Colbert, because Chris Colbert was like 6 fights into his career when he fought Titus Williams on the Chris Algieri Earl Spence undercard. And I remember being in New York City watching him hit the pads at Gleason's boxing gym, and I remember hearing just the buzz around the boxing community about this young kid, Lil B Hop. And then he went in there against Titus Williams. Titus Williams was a fellow New Yorker. It was a big rivalry fight, and he put a beating on Titus Williams, and that was like the first big win in his career. And I thought, he had bigger things ahead for him, and he did become champion. He was world champion, so good for him. But I think he could have been a little bit more, and I think he's one of the many cases in boxing these days of just poor mismanagement. Going to 35 was dumb. It was dumb going up there for anyone, because it wasn't going to work. It's crazy to think that the middleweight champions have a higher chance of getting the Canelo fight than unification. Um, Even Hamza Shiraz was offered the Canelo fight. Yeah, he was offered the Canelo fight, and Hamza Shiraz justified turning the Canelo fight down because he said, "Oh, I need more learning fights, this, that, and the third." And fair play to him. If he feels he needs more learning fights, then you go ahead and you do that. But back in the day, back in the good old days when boys were boys, and men were men, and the grass is green and the girls are pretty, you know, when you got fight offers to fight guys like Canelo, you don't turn those things down, because guys like that, everyone wants to fight them. And things are ever changing in boxing. Things are very fluid. Things can change from one day to the next. Um, so I don't know if we'll ever get that offer again. I don't know if we'll ever get that opportunity again. But Hamza Shiraz is a promising fighter at 160. Could be the best middleweight in the world. We'll see. We'll definitely go ahead and see. What are your thoughts on Ocelius Iglesias, and who do you got in David versus David? I'm leaning towards Benavidez, but I'm not really comfortable picking either way. It's a great fight. Iglesias, I watched him fight one time. I don't have a big opinion of him yet, good or bad. I know he can really, really punch. That's all I know about Iglesias. So when I actually sit down and get a chance to watch him more, I'll have more to say about him. But guys, I'll be honest with you. My eyes are about to close. I'm getting really tired. So look, I'm gonna cut this one a little short tonight. I said what I needed to say about Bakhram. So there's that. But I'm gonna get up and out of here, guys. So I don't know when I'll be live again. Maybe I'll be live in a couple of days. Maybe tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know. But listen, guys, please keep supporting True School Sports. The channel is growing. Even though I feel like it's going a little slow right now, but still, slow growth, slow motion is better than no motion. So yeah, I'm very grateful. 2024 has been one of the most challenging, productive, but greatest years of my life, and I believe it's gonna finish with a bang. So big things are in store. Got a big November and December coming for you guys. Next week here in Vegas will be the beginning of Floyd Schofield, Renee Talise Garon fight week. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be covering that. I'm waiting to see what they're going to say. So, but I'm pretty sure I will get in. So expect coverage on that fight on the channel. And yeah, I'm gonna get some rest now. You guys take care. God bless. And yeah, like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Dania. So until next time, take care, guys.